Okay, maybe this will be better. You can at least hear me. I like walking around a bit. It's kind of hard with so many microphones here. You know. We work with it. That's what it is. My wife reminded me, I don't know if it was yesterday, that this is Easter weekend. And this is not an Easter sermon, so I'm sorry. It's something I'm kind of excited about, though, so that kind of makes up for it. So, my first title for this sermon was really complicated. It's called David and Goliath. Until my wife told me I should change it. So, it's now Facing Giants, which I think is probably better. So, you all know what the traditional story is of David and Goliath, right? Here you have David at home while his brothers are off fighting the Philistines with the army of Israel. And they were away for some time. It had to be at least 40 days, because that's how long Goliath kept challenging the Israelite army. And then one day Jesse decided he wanted to find out word from his brothers, David's brothers. How are they doing? And so he gives David some food and said, go find your brothers. Which David does. And when he gets there, he finds this giant coming down to this valley between where the two armies were. And in the valley, Goliath is challenging. Hey, instead of fighting and everybody dying, why don't you just send down one person and we'll fight it out? And whoever wins, the other people get to be slaves of you. Simple. Except nobody from the Israelite side wanted to do it. I mean, really, when you look at this, do you blame them? Here you've got a guy 9 feet, 9 inches tall. Okay, I'm only about 5'7.5". He's slightly taller than I am. I do not want to go out and do this. In fact, he wore a bronze helmet and bronze scale armor that weighed 125 pounds. There's bronze armor on his shins, and a bronze javelin was slung between his shoulders. His spear shaft was like a weaver's beam, whatever that means, right? I'm assuming it means it's thick. And the iron point of his spear weighed 15 pounds. In addition, a shield bearer was walking in front of him. So, I kind of sympathize with the army of Israel. But David gets there, finds his brother, gives him this food, and then starts asking questions, like pesky younger brothers tend to do. Why didn't somebody go down there and fight him? His brothers tend to say, David, please be quiet. Why are you asking these questions? Just shut up. David's going, I'm just asking questions. What's harm in that? And he keeps doing it. In the meantime, he's told there's actually a reward for somebody to go down there and fight Goliath. If you go down and fight Goliath, you're going to be very rich. You're going to be marrying the king's daughter. And your dad and his family will no longer have to pay taxes. The last one is, to me, the biggest incentive. You laugh because you know it's true. And after a while, Saul hears about this, calls David and says, why don't you go down? Okay? Here's my armor. The best in the camp. Saul was the one who should have gone down. But David puts on the armor. He's going, man, I can't move. This is not the way I work. Takes off his armor, goes down, picks up 5 stones, crosses this little river, comes up, has some words with Goliath, swings his slingshot. Only he's a little bit better aimed than Charlie in our children's story this morning. He actually hits Goliath. Goliath falls down, and David comes up, takes Goliath's swords, chops off his head, and all the Philistines flee with the Israelites right behind. Wow. And the traditional points that are made are this. David overcomes a huge obstacle. And Goliath is overcome by somebody who should not have won. Am I correct? In fact, it's a metaphor for an improbable victory. But have you asked the question, why was David so confident? Because he trusts God? Yes, I don't want to discount that, okay, please. But I think there's a little bit more to that. In fact, what if David was the one with the advantages and not Goliath? And what if giants are not quite what we think they are? Let's change our mindset a little bit. Change his mind. See, Goliath had some expectations. He expected one-on-one sword fighting or something against sword. There's a story where Titus Manlius went out against a Gaul warrior. This Gaul warrior, he ended up on a bridge, and he was calling out, I believe it's the Roman army. And Titus got himself a big shield, and he had a Spanish sword, which is kind of shorter than normal. Went out there, took his shield, and started banging it against the Gaul's shield. And the guys started falling back. But Titus wouldn't let up. He kept going after him until he was wide open, and then Titus thrust his sword, killing the warrior. This was Goliath's expectations. This was the Israelites' armies' expectations, and why they didn't want to go down there. This is my expectation. Single, hand-to-hand combat. It was not a seasoned warrior against a shepherd boy. That was not Goliath's picture. I want to show you a little bit, give you some perspective of what it looked like. Oh yeah, anyway. Here you've got the cities of the Philistines. You got Gaza, Ashkelon, Ashdod, Ekron, and Gath. And all these Philistine cities were coming up into Israel. So Israel's army was coming down here, and they met right there in the valley of Elah. That's where this took place. And you kind of see here the Philistines' position, according to this source, is on the south, and the Israelite army is on the north. So I get a kind of a picture. Maps are great, but I kind of want to show you the territory. I believe the Philistines are probably over here, and Israel is probably over there, I think. I have to give you a picture of what it was like down in the valley, so you can see why you probably wouldn't want to fight up the other hill, right? Even with Goliath leading you. there's a little river. This is the river David crossed. This is about the size of what it looked like. So you see there's stones on the side, so David had plenty of opportunity to get some stones, right? There's an aerial view. I don't know, but I'm guessing Philistines here or one way and Israel on the other side. So one way or the other. And then you've got this nice, pretty valley in between. There's a big panoramic view, and you see the Philistine camp was over there, and the Israelites were over here. So that's where they're at. Another picture, this shows from the other direction. So you've got Saul's camp there, and I think that Israel must have been here, and Saul's camp is there, the Philistines are over here, and this is the direction that Saul or the Philistines fled when Goliath lost. This slingshot's a little bit different than modern slingshots. You've probably seen pictures. I wanted to show you what David was actually using. So we have visuals. It's kind of fun. I like seeing some of this stuff, so I had to show you. Show and tell. How many of you have played rock, paper, scissors? Several. Okay, I need your help. You got three things: rocks, paper, scissors. You have rock. What takes rock? Paper. Okay, so what takes paper?
Scissors.
Scissors. What takes scissors? Rocks. You go in circles. Ancient armies were kind of like playing rock, paper, scissors, only with people's lives. Why? Because you had three different components of an army. You have cavalry, which is on horseback or chariots. They took archers or slingers. And then but infantry was good against cavalry. And then you have infantry. And infantry is foot soldiers wearing armor, swords, shields, whatever. They're especially good against cavalry and weak against archers and slingers. What was Goliath? Infantry. Goliath was infantry. And then you have archers and slingers. They were good against infantry, weak against cavalry. What was David? A slinger. Not an archer, a slinger. What happens if you're an archer and you run out of arrows? There's something. What happens if you're a slinger and you run out of rocks? Pick up more rocks. This is rocky territory. There's more rocks. Go grab some, pick some up. A slinger took lots of skill. Okay? This is not an easy thing to learn. You saw what a slinger looked like, right? I could not do this. I would be trying that and eating grandma's duck. Accidentally. But you could severely injure at up to 200 yards. Maybe accuracy wasn't there, but you can still injure. At 35 meters, the velocity was 34 meters per second. To kind of put this in perspective, it's like the equivalent of taking a .45 handgun to a knife fight. And by definition, David was an expert. Killing a lion and a bear, he was an expert. Okay, who has the advantage? Yeah, now we're big pictures, our perspective is changing. It's not Goliath who has the advantage. It's David. See, Goliath had some assumptions. He was mobile, he was immobile, and David was mobile. And his assumption was that you're going to have a fight of two people with swords, two infantry. That's what he was calling down to do. That's what he was good at. But you see, Goliath also had some disadvantages. Probably. You see, medical people kind of take a look at this, and they say that some of the words in the text there sounds like Goliath had this disease called acromegaly. I don't know what it is, okay? You probably know, Doc. It's basically a benign tumor of the pituitary gland. What it does is it causes overproduction of the human growth hormone, and there's vision problems associated with it. So Goliath is much taller than normal. Other people grew a little bit taller and they died early because of this. Where do we come up with some vision problems in the text? Well, Goliath says, "Come to me," not "let me come to you." His first reaction is to be insulted that you've got a shepherd coming and not a warrior. If we just went through this little exercise that slingers trump infantry, he should have been terrified. But he was focused on David's stick. So he says, "Come to me with sticks," plural. I never thought of that before I started reading. But come with me with sticks, plural. He could have seen two sticks because of his vision problems. See, David, it would take him just over a second to release that rock from start to finish. Goliath would not have had time to realize that David changed the rules. And that kind of leads me into my first point today. A lot of times in our spiritual life, and you can even apply this to work, because I've got dual applications here, to your personal life and spiritually, is that maybe to be successful, we might have to change our expectations and even think outside the box. And the question is, do we have expectations in our lives that need to be changed? We make assumptions that can be wrong. You see, Goliath assumed this one-on-one battle. David said, and so did everybody in Israel. You notice that nobody wanted to face him? Not even the slingers. David's going, "I'm going to fight to my strengths. I'm not going to fight the Goliath's strengths. I'm fighting to my strengths." He changed the rules. It's a story of Vivek Randive. I think he's from Romania or something. He ended up in California. I believe when his daughter wanted to play basketball, and I think high school, he ended up being the coach. I think he says something like, "My greatest asset is that I was not the son of a basketball player." How do people mostly play basketball? Most of the time it's half-court basketball, basically. It's not a full-court press all the time. You throw it in, you bounce the ball or dribble the ball down to the other side, and then play half-court, basically. was used to soccer. And I guess you challenged the entire field. So he goes, his girls, they could not shoot very well. They were not the best shooters. They were not the tallest. But he made them run laps, and they were the fittest. And they could hustle any other team in the conference. And a lot of times, he played full court press the entire time. They would let whoever there throw it in, and they would try to double team and challenge every single person. And you got 20 seconds to get it across half court or so. And there were a lot of turnovers because they couldn't get it in. So what did people say? Other teams. It's unfair, you're cheating. Exactly. You're creating this advantage that favors your team, and you're not playing by tradition, you're cheating. They ended up making it to the finals. And they're playing in the other team's home court. And the refs were basically biased refs, calling ticky-tack fouls on them for any little thing. And about halftime, he had several of his girls foul out, and he finally told the team, basically play traditionally. Don't do the full court press anymore. They lost, but it was like by 1 or 2 baskets. Very few points. An amazing story. And so when it comes to our Christian walk with Christ, are there things that maybe we need to do spiritually for us of thinking outside the box or changing expectations? What about in our witnessing? Are there things that we're doing that might need to change? The next point that we can learn from this is about power. See, Goliath and the Israelites thought that power was physical might. It was strength. It was not speed and surprise. So you see, our weaknesses, or things we think of as our weaknesses, in reality can be strengths, depending how we look at it and our perception. So what perceived weaknesses do we have that could be actually a strength? What are your strengths? How can you overcome? Now, if the United States decided to go down and invade Mexico, and you had traditional battle, who would win? It's not a trick question here, okay? The U.S. would win. In a stand-up battle, a strong country versus a weak country, the strong country usually wins. Do you know what the percentage is? Any guesses? Okay, good. Some brave souls at 95. Thank you. It's a bit high, though. Somebody actually did a study on it and found out that strong versus weak, it's 71.5% of the time the strong country wins. Now, what happens if you've got a weak country that fights unconventionally? What's the percentage change? U.S. versus Vietnam, for example. Okay? Or all these terrorists that are running around the Middle East and everywhere. It's unfair. They're cheating. They're not standing up and fighting. What's the percentage of the weaker country winning? Almost. It goes from 28.5 to 63.6%. Unconventional fighting, the weaker country, you put your money on that if you happen to be a better, which we don't advise, right? The odds favor it. So physical power is not all that it's cracked up to be. In fact, in the Bible, biblical power is actually weakness. Here, this is Easter weekend. You've got Christ coming and dying for us. Was that strong or weak? If you look at it from a pure physical standpoint, that's pretty weak in a lot of ways, although strong to let yourself be killed. But from a power standpoint, allowing yourself to be killed is weak. But in Bible, biblical power is weakness. For example, 2 Corinthians 12, 6 through 10. This is Paul. And he goes, "For if I want to boast, I wouldn't be a fool, because I would be telling the truth. I've got stuff to boast about. But I will spare you, so that no one could credit me with something beyond what he sees in me or hears from me, especially because of the extraordinary revelations. Therefore, so that I would not exalt myself, a thorn in the flesh was given to me, a messenger of Satan to torment me, so that I would not exalt myself. Concerning this, I pleaded with the Lord 3 times that it would leave me. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is perfected in weakness. Therefore, I will most gladly boast all the more about my weakness, so that Christ's power may reside in me. So I take pleasure in weaknesses, insults, hardships, persecutions, and in difficulties for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong." Kind of gives me hope, because with my personal voice, I kind of think of it as a weakness. Most of you probably know this, but for those who don't, almost killing myself in a motorcycle accident and living with the voice that sounds like laryngitis is not really the strongest thing, right? But I'm still getting up here preaching. So maybe my voice is not quite the weakness I think it is, and maybe it might be more of a strength. So what are our weaknesses that are actually strengths? When it comes to witnessing, do we have things that we think, well, I'm not good because? Well, what if that's the same reason that could be a strength instead of a weakness? I have lots of questions today. We each have to come up with our own answers. That leads me to my third point. We're too scared to witness. See, too often we are more afraid of the fear than we are of the actual thing. And it's not the doing, and it's not the fear of doing, it's the fear of doing. Kind of going, where do you get that? Besides Israel being too afraid to go fight Goliath. In planning for the Battle of Britain, you know what that is, right? During World War II, it was the air assault that Germany had over Britain and London in preparation for a land battle that never happened. So in preparing for the British leaders had some predictions. They predicted that 3 to 4 million people would flee. There would be 600,000 dead, 1.2 million wounded, and mass panic. And maybe a lot of the dead would happen because of the mass panic. They considered having mass underground shelters. They didn't do it because they thought everybody would just go down there and stay there and not come out. So they decided not to build them. actually happened. 40,000 people were killed. Well, that's a lot of people. It's a lot less than 600,000. 46,000 people were injured. Well, that's a lot of people. It's a whole lot less than 1.2 million. The reaction of the people was wrong. They thought people would panic. Instead, they had a lot of courage. In fact, after bombs landed close by, it's like, I survived a bombing. Cool. Indifference. Last week I was actually told a story about grandparents, great-grandparents, where this guy was in World War I as a motorcycle messenger. And at that point, they didn't have, radios and stuff. This is the means of coordinating all of their actions. And so, guess who was a prime target of snipers? The messengers. And this guy survived. Probably a lot of close calls. He was alive during the Battle of Britain. Guess where he was? They had a house overlooking London. It's on the second floor of his house, watching the bombing of London. His wife was going, let's go down to the food shelter. And he refused. Lost the fear. They were more afraid and thought that people would be so afraid that they would panic. And they're all wrong. Actually going through it was less fearful than actually planning for it. And the people eventually would not even seek out the shelters. They would just let it go. Another story I was told last week was this lady, she would go and help the land army, which is basically going out and farming. And after Germany decided to go attack Russia instead of attack Britain, they would send V-1 rockets over. The V-1 rockets weren't that scary. They hear the sound, big deal, until they went silent. And then when they went silent, then they go run and jump in the ditch. Because that's when it was on final approach. So here we are often as humans prone to be afraid of being afraid. And the fear is often greater than the reality. When you go to try to make a phone call to somebody you don't know, are you like me and maybe giving a little bit of panic over the phone call? Because I'm scared to death to talk to somebody that I have never met before. So you know what this fear of being afraid is really like. So in your Christian walk, are you experiencing the fear when it comes to witnessing and sharing Christ with other people? And so I don't even want to mention Christ, especially in today's society. I'll tell you, right now I'm taking some classes, finishing up some classes at Drake University. And I've actually, over the last couple years, had more of an opportunity to talk about and to answer the question, what's the Seventh-day Adventist, than I've ever did before that time. It's kind of nice to witness, and all you have to do is share what you know. You don't have to know everything. This is my relationship with Christ. Actually doing it. It's not as afraid, it's not as fearful as maybe we think in mentally working up to it. So my challenge today is for each of us to take some moments or some time of introspection to identify what weaknesses we might have in our lives and ask ourselves, how can they actually be a strength and not my perceived weakness? And while this this is very applicable in our careers or business. I want us to look at our Christian walk and how we share Christ with other people. Stop being afraid of the fear. Start working through some of that and letting God use us in the way that He leads us each day. This is my prayer.